Hello, everyone. I'm Catherine Anaya. Thank you so much for joining me for the Women's Eye podcast, where we introduce you to fascinating women who are leaving their mark, making a difference, and changing lives. This episode is brought to you by Casco Financial Group in Phoenix, Arizona. Catherine Scrivano is the president of Casco Financial Group. She founded her business to help people create the financial strength needed for achieving their dreams and building money power. Her belief is you do not have to be wealthy to be wise. And Catherine is my guest today. So nice to see you, Catherine.
Great seeing you as well.
Thank you. So, of course, we're still feeling the impact of COVID-19 on so many levels, especially our finances. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about what kind of overall impact you think you're seeing this have on financial decisions that we make when we move forward.
You know, it's interesting having a lot of conversations with existing clients and just folks who, once they know what I do for my business, are very anxious to talk about the financial impact of this experience. And all of them are talking about lessons they're learning. And it reminds me of folks who perhaps were raised by people influenced during the Great Depression. And they'll all tell you stories about the changes in their life going forward. And I think we're going to have some of those same types of stories and experiences now.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I just received my credit card bill from the previous month. And looking at it, I thought, I can't believe I spent my money on that because I would not do it coming out of this. My whole attitude toward money has changed in just the last month.
And, you know, you're not alone. As a matter of fact, I think that you represent the majority of people. For someone in my field, we're celebrating that mindset in that people are thinking about what's important to them as they spend their money. And it's just what a difference 6 or 7 weeks make.
Mm-hmm. Yes, our values are changing, that's for sure. So let's discuss it more in detail by the various stages that people are in, beginning with young people who are just starting out financially. What kind of an impact has this had on them and should have on their future financial decisions?
Do you remember just getting out of college and you were just so bulletproof and there was nothing to make you think that wasn't the case? And yet now this huge reality check for those younger people. Very interesting conversations around estate planning documents, those legal documents in which someone can act on your behalf if you're not able. When we're young and bulletproof, we think that those are things for old and wealthy people, when in fact, especially for young folks with young families, those are critical. And they are actually the ones bringing it up, or they're certainly responsive to those conversations in a way that they hadn't been before. Most of them are thinking about their emergency funds or lack thereof and wishing, like you, that they had maybe made some other decisions about spending and maybe made a priority about saving. And a lot of them are thinking about their career choices and wondering if they should continue in a career in which there is vulnerability that they're experiencing now, that perhaps they're thinking about other careers that actually may take advantage of whatever we end up defining as the new normal.
Sure, and I would imagine that a lot of these folks are also thinking about the careers they could do that would allow them to be at home, which
Sure.
some people are actually enjoying during this time.
My staff, our whole team, I'm the only one who comes in every day. Most of our team works remotely. And had they approached me about that, I don't know, 3 months ago, I would have said, no, I just don't see how that works. When in fact, we thought that this became a possibility. I'm proud to say we jumped in front of it and said, let's figure out if it could work. And I don't think I'll get them to come back in. It's going to be difficult to drag them back into the office.
Well, it is interesting to see how quickly and creatively people have been able to pivot to maintain their businesses despite what's happening.
Yeah, no, the creativity, and that's where we as optimists, those who choose to see the glass as half full, let's look at the opportunities. Let's look at innovation and see how we can participate and profit from that.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about the kind of impact that this is having on people who are established, pre-retirement aged. how has this pandemic affected them, and how do you think it should influence financial decisions moving forward?
Well, those conversations are interesting because at this stage of our life, we know we're not bulletproof. Many of us have lived through the 2008-2009 financial crisis, many through 2001, the 9/11 experience. So we do know that things are not predictable. Those who have a financial plan, a written financial plan with goals and timelines and thought out strategies, they're fine. They're not happy. I don't pretend that everybody is okay and cheerful. However, nobody's losing sleep. They're calling, we're talking through it. We're remembering the lifeboat drills that we've done throughout. We have done what if scenarios. And so we're touching base and reaffirming some of the strategies and plans that we made. So I can't speak highly enough about the value of a financial plan. It's almost a generic recommendation. Everyone must have one. The folks who do have one, they too are looking at their estate planning documents, making sure that they're current. Perhaps beneficiaries need updating. That kind of maintenance is top of mind. Also, the emergency fund and questioning some of their spending decisions. A tough conversation for a lot of people is how many of us tie life insurance and health insurance to our employment.
Which surprised me.
Well, it's a very common employee benefit to be able to buy life insurance for fairly inexpensive. However, it is tied to you working. So if you leave your company, you may be without life insurance unless you've taken steps to own something yourself. So that's been a reality check for a lot of people. Another one is liquidity. And I know that's a little bit of jargon, but so many people in our booming real estate market, much of their net worth has been tied up in the equity in their homes. And then perhaps the rest of their money is tied up in their employer retirement plans, which I told you last week, please don't go there unless you absolutely have to. So addressing the ability to get to cash without having to sell in a down market, or perhaps qualify for a loan when you don't have a job, those kind of complicated things. People are really re-examining their liquidity issues. And also people in mid and toward the end of careers are also thinking about their career choices. Many of them inclined to start businesses. They're seeing opportunities and thinking they might like to be in control of that next step.
And there's also this emphasis, as we've discussed before, on debt management and really understanding, and prioritizing what do we need versus what do we want, right?
I'm talking to people who are so adamant that they will not take on any debt that's not productive debt going forward. Just really thinking about paying for things that perhaps they could wait on or just do without.
And the decision making, you like to say that when you're in a relationship, that really you have to have conversations with the other person so that the decision making is approached as a couple and not individually, because that makes a big difference, right?
Even if you have decided to allocate responsibility and ownership for certain parts of your spending plan or your financial plan, at least both partners need to be aware of where the information is. And you and I spoke a couple of months ago about ways to get there. And having those money conversations sometimes can be a little bit awkward. However, right now, people who are a little bit resistant to having some help and having those conversations are now calling and saying, how do we do this? What does this other person need to know? How can I give them the information that I have? How can I leave that trail of breadcrumbs? More than ever, we're seeing people really team up to tackle these financial challenges. And I'm on my soapbox. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, again, another example of how our perspective has changed so much in just a matter of months. Let's talk about the retired person. How frightening has this been for someone who is retired? And what financial changes might they be able to make or should make as a result of this situation?
Well, we're once again, those who have done the work to create a written financial plan, they are sleeping at night. We have always talked about your setting time horizons for your goals. And if your intention was to spend these dollars within the next couple of years, those were in the bank or a credit union or someplace safe anyway. So uh, those people are not concerned immediately. However, they are looking at their longer term investments. And it sounds very sad, but for many retirees, they're concerned about outliving their money.
Mm.
When I talk to women specifically, they always use the term bag lady, their fear of being a bag lady. So for those who have already done the plan, again, we have done what if scenarios, we've done the lifeboat drills, and we may be tweaking some things, but we're kind of prepared for it. Those who have not done a plan, now's now's the time to start. Whether you're a retiree or just starting out, getting it written, getting clarity around it. You know, we've most of us are home and have plenty of time to do such things.
Mhm. Sounds like that's the biggest lesson I think we've all learned from this, is that we have to have a plan in place.
Absolutely. With our retirees, I wanted to mention something that many have not really thought about, and I'm back to life insurance. In the event of the death of either spouse, pensions may be lost. One Social Security check is almost certainly going to be lost. So, looking, if necessary, at ways to replace that income, if that's not a possibility, anticipating the lifestyle changes that might be
Hmm.
required. It's much better to think about those things. They're certainly unpleasant, but get just a general framework before you're acting out of panic or in times of sadness. You're very
Hmm.
vulnerable at those times to making decisions that you're not going to be able to sustain long term. And my retirees are the greatest ones for really talking to each other, looking to us for help in those conversations, and making sure that the information is available to both.
That's so fantastic to hear. We talked about the financial planning being one of those biggest lessons that I think we've all across the board learned through this. What about other influences that may have an impact on future financial decisions? What are you seeing that kind of touches everybody at any stage?
Just, I, I don't mean to be blasé, but it's kind of just a reality check.
Hmm.
People had unrealistic expectations about the amount of return they would get on their investments because in the last couple of years they've been, out of the ordinary, and we're very quick to think, oh, this is it, this is, I should put these big numbers into my plan going forward. And we're happy to do that as one of the what if scenarios, but we're insistent on the more realistic expectations too. Again, that's the lifeboat drill. What if things go badly? What would we do in that case? So I think the reality check, the um, communication, and knowing your values. Again, just coming back, whenever we talk about dollars, I'm insistent that we take a moment and examine how we spend our money, whether it's on things that we need, things that we want, or our wishes. And I'm a fan
Hmm.
of all three, but making sure that we're thoughtful about them.
Well, I appreciate you sharing these reminders for us, putting things into perspective at the various stages of our financial lives, but also reminding us of what we need to do at those stages and just in general. We're learning a lot of tough lessons. It's a
Yeah,
tough
yeah.
situation.
Yeah, but there's that quote about those who don't learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. Nobody wants to go through this again on any aspect. There are so many resources around financial planning. Our website has a ton of resources. I'm so proud of it. We offer an hour of our time at no cost, no obligation. I promise you it's not a sales pitch, but we're happy to just talk to people and kind of help them focus on what they need to be doing. And we're not the only ones. There's a lot of great organizations that we're just very proud of the work that we do in times like these. This is where we really earn our keep, and we're very proud to do it.
This is where you shine.
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
not
thank you.
comparing myself to some of our true heroes, but it's so satisfying to talk to people who at the beginning of a conversation are very frightened. They're even hesitant to put their fears in words and their thoughts in words. And at the end of the conversation are breathing deep and slow and calm, and they feel like they've got control, at least in this area, when they don't in so many others. That's very
Absolutely.
gratifying to us.
Well, I can only imagine, and I certainly appreciate you sharing some of that valuable information with our listeners and viewers on YouTube. So thank you, Catherine, as always. And thank you for being a regular contributor here on the Women's Eye podcast. We love
Happy to
having
be
you.
here. Thank you.
You can learn more about Catherine on our website at thewomenseye.com. And do not forget, The Women's Eye has a book. It's called 20 Women Changemakers. You can find it at changemakersbooks.com, or book.com, I should say, not plural. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Women's Eye podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Catherine Anaya. Until next time, remember, it's the world as we see it.